do your homework, establish what it is you need for your business. For us, it was access to freight. It was manufacturing resources and raw material and supply chains. We needed a business-friendly, low-tax, low-overhead place to get established and get cash flowed and get growth trajectory going for our company. I mean, those were kind of the big key factors for us in making a decision, but those were really, we knew what those were. We were just trying to find the place and the recipe to bring those things together.
Welcome to Gone to Texas, the official podcast of the Texas Economic Development Connection. On every episode, we share the stories of business owners and CEOs who have relocated or expanded their business into Texas. Our goal is to use these stories as a guide to help others who are ready to hang a sign on the door that says, Gone to Texas. And now, please welcome your host, the Managing Partner and Chief Inspiration Officer for Day One Experts, Super Dave Quinn.
Howdy, friends, and welcome to another episode of Gone to Texas podcast, powered by Day One Experts. I'm your host, Super Dave Quinn, and today we've got a very special guest from Bonham, Texas, Jason Royse, who is the president of Renlita, a company that provides custom opening solutions, I guess, across the U.S. We'll hear more about his story and who they serve, and so let's dive into the show. Jason, welcome to Gone to Texas.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
You bet, man. I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to come on and share your story. So Joey Grisham in Bonham, Texas connected us. He's the Economic Development Director there and felt like you'd be a great ambassador for what business is like here in Texas. So if you don't mind, give our audience a little background, some context about your company, about yourself, and we'll start there. Just tell us a little bit about what it is you guys do.
So Renlita is a custom manufacturer of vertical folding mechanisms. That could be doors, windows, and walls. It can span anywhere from 3-foot wide window all the way up to an entire side of a building. We were founded by my parents, Byron and Beverly, 20 years ago in 2005. Back in North Carolina is where we got our start.
Nice.
And that we've been growing ever since, and now celebrating 20 years in business this year.
Man, I'm always amazed when, now being a business owner for myself, that's an accomplishment. 20 years. I always thought when I was a business owner, there'd be some moment where I was like, okay, I'm kind of there. Everything's running like clockwork and I don't have to work anymore. And that's not how it is. So, yeah.
I haven't found that yet either.
It's good to hear that. Like, I'm not the only one. I thought maybe I'm just not the smart one in the room. So, well, that's an impressive run. Tell us a little bit about do you operate across the U.S. or what's your audience base or what's your customer base?
So our manufacturing location is here in Bonham, Texas, North Texas. We're shipping product all over the United States and occasionally around the world. We've got partners in Hong Kong and the Middle East and all that, so we're shipping product there as well. So,
no, that's impressive.
Our target audience is really going to be the architect. We're going to work with them to design a specific product for a specific opening. We're not like a mass-produced manufacturer that's going to say, well, we're going to build the 10-foot wide doors today, and they're going to be the brown or the blue or whatever. Everything we make is custom designed for a specific opening and a specific function.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about the operation there in Bonham. How many employees do you guys have here in Texas?
So we're right at 50 employees. We've got a 100,000 square foot manufacturing facility. We've been in this facility since 2017, and we've been in Bonham since 2009.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about that move. I mean, when you're starting in North Carolina and moving, I'm always amazed by people. Like, I know how hard it is just to move my family from one town in Texas to another. I can't imagine picking up a company and moving the operations from one state to another. What was that transition like?
Luckily, that was a pretty easy decision and a pretty easy move at the time that we did it. 2008 is when 2007, 2008 is when we started to explore where, we knew we needed to move. We needed to be more centrally located to serve our two kind of key geography markets, which ended up being that, California And then that Baltimore to Boston corridor was our key geographies at that time. Being located in North Carolina and shipping product to California was not exactly a viable long-term plan. So once we started growing to a point where the freight routes were becoming more and more common, my parents prior to Beverly had decided, we need to find a central location to better serve both of these markets. And central within the U.S. ended up being kind of a target area. We didn't necessarily say, well, that's Bonham's where we want to be. They started that exploration. But after that journey through a couple of different areas and conversations, Bonham ended up being a pretty natural choice for us just based on its location and resources available to us.
Nice. And so did y'all have to move employees? I mean, did you bring a lot of employees with you, or did you move and then ramp up with employees from the local area?
Yeah, so at the time when we were based in North Carolina, we had a contract manufacturer. So we were supplying them and they were manufacturing, but that relationship had kind of outgrown that arrangement. And it was time for us to start our own manufacturing facility. So there was really only 4 or 5 of us that made the move at the time. And it was pretty much our 2 families that were making the move. We then found a location here within Bonham, hired employees, and got up and running within about 60 days.
Man, that's lightning fast. People always ask about how fast or how that transition of shutting down one or moving to another, because, time is money. And when you shut down one operation, you're trying to get set up in another, what that was like. So I bet that was pretty critical for you guys as well, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was fast and furious from, finding a location to finding employees to stocking, getting inventory up and running, equipment, all that. The same thing. Everybody told us plan on 90 to 120 days. And I don't think we were quite smart enough to know that it should take that long. So we just said, well, we need to do it in 30 or 45 days. And we just put the head down and got it done.
Nice. Nice. Well, tell us a little bit about, being able to ship. You talked about being, across the U.S. and around the globe, and being located where you are. Is it all truck driven? It's a custom product, but are you sending it by ship? How are you shipping your product?
So that's going to be a variety depending upon the application, location, and quantity and size of the project. Most of our stuff is going on a flatbed truck, semi-truck from our factory directly to the construction site. And we found that once we started looking into the freight routes available to us in Texas, and if you just look at a map, pretty much every major east and west and north and south artery kind of passes within about 100 miles of, where we're located. So, and then everybody's bringing product into Texas, and we had access to empty trucks going out of Texas was pretty good. So once we looked at that, that checked a big box for us. With access to manufacturing resources of raw materials, steel, industrial equipment, those type items. We have steel vendors coming out of Texarkana, coming out of Dallas, and we're kind of located right in the middle of those. So we had access to all the resources, but we were a little bit far enough out of Dallas to not have the large overhead of cost of buildings and everything else that was associated with it. So it was kind of a really good recipe of all things balanced there to make it work for us. And it really did.
Nice. All right. That's a supply chain is a massive, it's a critical component when we're talking about manufacturing, right? And being able to access not only just to get your product out of your manufacturing facility, but like you said, the inputs going into it. And so talk a little bit about how you've been able to grow the talent and workforce. I think we surprise people, I think, when we talk about East Texas and Northeast Texas about the quality and number of manufacturing workforce. Have you seen that? It sounds like you have, but let's talk a little bit about the workforce and what you've been able to do there in Bonham.
Yeah, the vast majority of our workforce is either going to be welders, fabricators, and Grayson College, just 25, 30 miles away, has a great program where they're certifying welders. The local high schools have really picked up their skill set and trades that they're pushing on their end, and I think it's possible you can walk out of high school with an AWS certification in welding now. So, I mean, they're walking out of high school graduation, which was last week, with a certificate in their hand and ready to work. And that's a huge plus for us because the type of manufacturing and welding we're doing, we're not going to pull from another skill set and say, okay, you just plug them right into our manufacturing environment. They know exactly what's going to happen. So we've got to spend quite a bit of time and resource with them developing the skills that are specific to our manufacturing processes. So whether they're coming straight out of school or whether they've got years of experience, we'll really look forward to either one of those. But the access to those has been very good for us.
Nice.
The other one is engineering because it's a specific custom product. We rely heavily on that engineering. So, and there's plenty of universities down in the Dallas area that have the engineering programs, mechanical engineering programs that we're looking for. So we know it's coming up on graduation time. We're going to post on those job boards and start trying to pull in some talent there. And we've had some pretty good luck in doing that as well.
Bonham, Texas is the county seat of Fannin County. It's the commercial center of the county and is located along State Highway 121 and the U.S. Highway 82. Steeped in history, Bonham is one of the oldest cities in Texas and home of Sam Rayburn. It has its own municipal airport and is located just north of the DFW region, which is the fastest growing region in the U.S. Bonham also boasts several industrial and manufacturing enterprises, including Vector Systems, Tundgrun International, Clayton Homes, Kelso, Renlita, Doors, TCI Transcable, and more. The community is also home to the Sam Rayburn Veterans Center that employs over 800 people. With its proximity to DFW and Sherman, Bonham has a strong workforce and recently approved 2 large new housing developments that should take shape very soon. Lastly, Bonham provides 2 lakes, Lake Bonham, a 1,000-acre recreational lake, and the Bodark, the first reservoir built in Texas in over 30 years. Bodark Lake is over 17,000 surface acres and provides lakeside living and recreational opportunities. Bonham has a pro-growth and pro-development attitude and wants your business. I'm Super Dave Quinn saying thank you to Joey Grisham and the Bonham EDC for sponsoring this episode of Gone to Texas. Don't just dream about it. Make the move to Texas today. That's awesome. So sourcing talent's been good for you, both on the higher skilled engineering, but then also on the skilled labor of manufacturing. That's been good. Talk a little bit about life in Bonham. One of the questions we always get is, okay, that's great. It checks these big boxes, the supply chain and that. But what a lot of times our audience is looking for is what's day-to-day life like? What's a Tuesday afternoon or what's a Friday night look like in these communities? Aren't, they know Dallas, Houston, Austin, but that's not where they're really going to be. They're really going to be within an area, within that region. So share a little bit about that, what you found in Bonham and what that life is like as a business owner.
So Bonham's been quickly growing over the last, since we've been here 20 years now. It's, between the new legs coming on board and the growth of the community. I mean, we've sat here and watched it happen, but close enough to Sherman, Harris, and Dallas that if you want to run down and do nightlife like a lot of our younger workforce wants to be surrounded by that, they're living down in McKinney, and it's a 25 to 35-minute commute to us. And the nice thing about commuting in that direction, they're opposite the traffic. So there's, watching the traffic go the other direction, just kind of waving on their way. So it just depends on what it is you're looking for. At my age group and my stage of life, I like quiet. So we've got a place out in the country. But, if we desire to go do something activity-wise for our kids or our family, you're close enough to it's 30, 45-minute drive to get to whatever you need to get to. We enjoy boating and lake life, so we've got, Lake Bonham here, and then, Bodark just finished, and you can go out to Texoma if you want. We run up to even Beaver's Bend up in Oklahoma is only a 2.5, 3-hour drive for us. So we find it's a good combination. If you want quiet, you can get that. If you want to be a part of the culture and nightlife or whatever, it's not too much of a drive to be a part of that. So it's, like I said, it really is kind of in a good spot, geography-wise and access-wise. So you can certainly get what you need. Depends on what it is that you're looking for in your stage of life.
And it's probably good for long-term employment or business or employee retention, because no matter what stage of life they're in, because, you start out wanting one thing, but then over time you start to transition into, I'm like you. How quiet can I get it on the weekends and just just be me? And it sounds like that's a great sort of combination there.
Yeah, like I said, our employees, we've sat there and watched them. They've come out of college, and then they're single, and then they're getting married, and they're having kids, and they're like, no, I'm going to change, and they're able to do that, without a drastic move or a drastic change in job title or something like that, or having to go find a different place to go. They can do it all right here.
So another concept that we talk about is really plugging into the business infrastructure, because you think about insurance and financing and even just legally setting up the business. Have you been able to sort of plug in? And I mean, you've been there 20 years. I think I know the answer to this, but talk a little bit about plugging into the business infrastructure and other business owners that you're able to connect with there in Bonham.
So when the initial introduction to Bonham was very easy. I mean, it was a couple of phone calls through different acquaintances. And next thing you know, we've got a meeting with the Economic Development Council, the Industrial Foundation, the mayor, the city council. I mean, we walked into a room and there's 20, 30 people, and it was, how do we get you here?
Yeah.
And it was like, well, this is a little different. I mean, it was very honest in the fact that, Byron and Beverly just laid out, okay, here's where we're at. Here's what we need. Here's what here's the challenges we're facing. And immediately it was, well, they're going to help you with this portion of it. We got some solutions for you on this. And that, at the end of the conversation, I think they were like, we don't have a reason to say no at this point. So let's move forward. So having access to your local officials, if there's a legitimate serious problem, they've been very responsive. And then going past that, we've got our Manufacturers Council and Industrial Foundation and other items that are ongoing resource to us. One that comes to mind, I think we had high-speed internet problems some years ago, and after discussions with some of the other businesses in town, they're like, yeah, we had the same problem. Yeah, we had the same problem. We all got together and brought the key players that provide those services in and said, look, this is an issue for us. And they were able to, okay, it is. I see it. And we got a resolution to it and made improvements to that, got them motivated to make those improvements to the community here.
That's awesome.
So that was something that was able to, a relatively short period of time, recognize there's a problem, kind of coordinate it, communicate it, and there was a resolution to it. And you're like, man, this is great. This is how things could work.
I always laugh because business owners, I have a hard time getting them to believe that to be the case. They think I'm just saying that, and it's so good that you gave that as an illustration, because they're not used to that sort of welcome problem solving. Let me figure out how we can solve your problem. And so I think that is one of the biggest surprises business owners have when they move to Texas, and they feel like there's a catch, like there's some catch, and I'm like, it's not a catch. These folks that's what they do. They want to help you be successful and want to help you solve problems. They might or might not be able to, but they generally want to and try if they can.
And I think from my perspective, that I looked at it as they were looking for a partner for them. And we were also looking for a partner to help us get established and get a place to call home. And it was two things that really just kind of meshed well at exactly the right time.
Nice. So what's on the horizon for you guys? I mean, you've already been there 20 years. Are you impacted by the tariffs, or is that something that you've had to worry with? Or, yeah, tell us a little bit about the future of your company and what's on the horizon.
So we started when we moved to Bonham, we were on a different facility. We quickly outgrew that facility. It was fantastic because it was a great place to get started, kind of get things growing and get the path going and get the trajectory going. 2017, we moved into the facility we're at now. We've got 100,000 square foot, 20 additional acres around us. So we've kind of got ourselves set up for the longer term growth that we're planning for. As far as where do we go from here, we're starting to see a good saturation in that U.S. market. We're starting to look outside that U.S. market. So Like I said, we've got partners. We've shipped product to the Middle East, Kuwait and Turkey, and with Hong Kong and Russia and some other places.
Wow.
That's been some projects we've done throughout the years, and we continue to try to find ways to develop that business. But it's very unique aspects compared to a U.S. market. So we're trying to adapt products to kind of hit those local markets and be valid those there as well. Tariffs, yeah, they've caused some roller coasters here the last 60 days or so. Yeah, Mexico and Canada tariffs went in place. We saw steel and aluminum prices go through the roof. Then they're put on hold. Then the prices kind of come down on the aluminum. The steel's taking a little bit longer. So for us, it's really the uncertainty of what is it going to cost us to make our product here in the next 30, 60 days. Because you're looking at these 90-day deadlines coming up where that extension is going to run out. Is the prices going to go back up? Are they not? How much do I charge? Will I remain profitable? Will we be able to get material? Yeah, it comes with its own set of challenges, but we look forward to hopefully some resolution to some of these tariffs and trade issues that are ongoing. My opinion, the quicker they can get those resolved, I think the quicker it'll put some level of certainty and reliability back in the supply chains and the markets.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest. What I hear over and over again is just the uncertainty, and when you don't know, how are you supposed to take the next best step if you're not sure? Like, should I charge double my product price, or because you don't know what the inputs cost? So
I don't know how much it's going to cost me next month.
Right. Well, hey, so if you had a couple of tips for a business owner who's looking to come to Texas, what are some of the things you've learned just over the years of doing business in Texas, and maybe that, you can help the next business owner coming in? What would be your suggestion for, that entry into Texas, wherever they're going? What are some suggestions you might have to help that business owner?
Do your homework. Establish what it is you need for your business. For us, it was freight, access to freight. It was manufacturing resources and raw material and supply chains. We needed a business-friendly, low-tax, low-overhead place to get established and get cash flowed and, get a growth trajectory going for our company. I mean, those were kind of the big key factors for us in making a decision, but those were really, we knew what those were. We were just trying to find the place and the recipe to bring those things together. We were fortunate in the fact that we had the resource of officials and local community here in Bonham. They were very responsive, and I think that was a big thing. Because some phone calls and emails and other things were made to other communities, but they were not as responsive.
That's awesome. So I think that's a really good takeaway is you don't have to do it on your own. When you're coming into Texas, there are resources and people connecting with the local economic developer. And it says a lot about how one city might be more aggressive and responsive than another. That might be a good sign that it's a right fit, right? Because sometimes maybe it's just a fit. But when you find the fit and they come out and do like what you're mentioning Bonham did, that's a really good sign that you're probably in a good spot for success for your business.
And it's usually a pretty good indication of what the partnership's going to be after that. If they're responsive on the front end, chances are they're going to be a partner and responsive with anything in the future. So
nice.
If you find somebody's either being non-responsive or just kind of saying, okay, well, here's a brochure, good luck, that's pretty much what you can expect long-term, I believe.
Oh, that's good. Well, Jason, where can the audience, if they happen to need open, vertical opening solutions, I love that. Where can they find you? Where can they find out more about your product?
Well, our website is renlitausa.com. Or if you're in the area of Bonham, want to swing by, we're located just on the other side of 82. We'd love to show you.
Well, I love that too. All right. Well, guys, thank you Jason, thank you for being on the show today. I want to say thanks to Joey and appreciate him once again setting this up and allowing us to have this conversation. I wish you the best of success. And before we sign off here, let's do this. Hey, thanks for listening to another episode of Gone to Texas. As always, please like, share, and subscribe to our show. Many business owners across the U.S. feel frustrated with their economic circumstances and look to the Lone Star State for opportunities. We help those business owners find the right place in Texas, like Bonham, to expand or relocate their businesses. When this happens, their business grows and Texas benefits. So visit us today at www.texasedconnection.com. and we'll set up a call and learn how we can help you move to Texas. I'm your host, Super Dave Quinn, saying bye for now, and until next time, make it a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Gone to Texas, the official podcast of the Texas Economic Development Connection, powered by Day One Experts, a collection of the country's best-known economic development professionals offering on-demand services to communities across the nation.